Welcome to the second day of CloudFest 2020 brought to you by GNX. CloudFest is organized by GNX, the official Linux user group of Netaji Subhash Engineering College, in association with Phoenix, the official tech club of NSCC. Last day, all of you have got a glimpse of what cloud is and why is it the new talk of the town with Mr. Sengupta, who talked about Azure. Today, we are going to dive a little more into the topic. Today's focus is Google Cloud Platform, or GCP as we know it, and hybrid cloud. Before starting today's session, I would like to thank Team Cognito for their technical help and GNX Media and Mailing team for their effort. We have with us Mr. Parth Sanghani. He is the GCP lead in Searce in Northeast India, Bangladesh, and Nepal, and has close to 5 years of industry experience. He has worked with like of InfoSys and other organizations to adopt and migrate to cloud. He will be speaking on uh, how GCP is different in itself. Please welcome Mr. Sanghani.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Shilpi, for that. For that brief introduction. Good evening, and thanks, Netaji Subhash Engineering College, for inviting me as a speaker on Google Cloud Platform. So my screen is visible, Shilpi, if I'm not wrong. My screen is visible, Shilpi?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Just wanted to understand if my screen is visible right now. Yeah. Shilpi, am I audible? Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So yeah, so I'll quickly present my screen. So just a brief about myself. I did my MBA from Nirma Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, and from past 2 years I've been leading business sales for Google Cloud Platform at Searce. Searce is a premier partner of Google Cloud Platform. I lead for North and East India region along with Bangladesh and Nepal market. Uh, apart from sales and business, I have pretty strong affinity towards poetry, storytelling, and I look forward to speaking with students, helping them in making wise career choices. I'll quickly present my screen around. So today the whole idea was to discuss around Google Cloud Platform. But before going into the cloud, I would like to understand and see that most of the people might be aware about what cloud is. Why public cloud or why a hybrid cloud? What do you mean by on-premise? So when I talk about public cloud, Google Cloud Platform, Amazon Web Services, Microsoft Azure, these are the three. I would say AWS has the largest market share, followed by Azure. Azure is liked by a lot of enterprises, followed by Google Cloud Platform. Google Cloud Platform entered into the market little late when we compare it with AWS or Azure. But there are a lot of differentiators in GCP that is one of the most sought out of cloud platform, and a lot of digital native companies have been moving on to Google Cloud Platform. When I talk about multi-cloud, as per the Flexera's cloud survey, almost 94% of the enterprises have started using cloud. Before 25 years ago, organizations had to keep huge servers in their company premises. The difficulty in maintaining servers was huge because just in case, now imagine there is big billion day coming up, or imagine that there's a sale going on your website, and you have procured maybe 5 to 10 servers in your on-premise in your campus, and then all of a sudden the sale comes and traffic increases on your website. So what do? You have to procure more servers overnight, and it becomes a huge hassle. That's where public cloud came into the picture. with Amazon Web Services leading the complete back in 2008-9 itself, they started the public cloud, and then followed by Azure and Google Cloud. That's where the whole idea of going into the cloud makes sense. For an example, you all might have played game Pokemon Go. So what happened was, all of a sudden overnight, Pokemon Go went viral, and Pokemon Go was on Google Cloud platform, and with the help of the being in public cloud, they were able to auto scale themselves. They were able to scale up the infrastructure that was needed, the virtual machines that was needed. It it went. They were able to auto scale it overnight, and that is the beauty of going into the cloud. But now, when we talk about the cloud, when we talk about students like you, it is not limited to just storage and processing. Cloud is much more than just storage and processing. Cloud is about data. Cloud is about AI and ML, and that's the beauty of it. So each and everybody who is listening this this webinar, or specifically students, a lot of people ask me that whether I should go and learn AWS, whether I should go and learn Google Cloud Platform, I should do certification of what. I would always suggest that when you're talking about Google Cloud Platform or Amazon Web Services, it's like learning a car. It's okay, you learn a Maruti or you learn a Hyundai, but once you will be able to drive a car, you will be able to drive another car also. So you need to begin learning cloud, be it GCP, be it AWS, be it Azure. But yeah, just from a fun fact, I guess I will keep on going for next 30 minutes, and I will keep on talking about cloud, because that's what I've been doing to earn money, as a part of my job. So yeah. So when I talk about Google, I would like to understand, when you name Google, what is the first thought that comes into your mind? Google search engine. It might be YouTube. It might be Android. It might be Google Chrome, Google Maps, Play Store, G Suite. Now, Google has been using its own infrastructure over the years to to help all of us with all these services. I guess most of us grew up watching YouTube. Now, the beauty of Google Cloud Platform is that the infrastructure that Google Cloud Platform is using for YouTube, for Google Maps, for Play Store, for G Suite, that is the Gmail, is the same infrastructure that it provides to its all the customers. So there is no difference. Now imagine a scenario. Imagine your experience on YouTube. Imagine your experience on Gmail. Your experience using Play Store is the same seamless experience which you get when organizations or when students start exploring Google Cloud Platform, when they start using the virtual machines on Google Cloud Platform. So as I said, why customers choose Google Cloud Platform? Because of the synergies. I'm not sure whether a lot of you are aware about Google Search and Google Advertisements, but Google Search and Google Advertisements is one of the bread and butter for Google as an organization, as a from the business point of view. Google Maps, it has its own monopoly over there. Now, when you're using cloud, you are easily able to utilize all those other services that Google provides, because there's an underlying synergy which you automatically get accustomed to. One of the best part about Google Cloud Platform is when you compare it with Azure or Amazon Web Services, it is cost optimized. It is the cloud economics comes into the picture, because at the end of the day, when organizations wants to host their infrastructure, wants to host their applications, there are two things which matters when a decision making comes from any organization. One is the technical compatibility. Another is the cost impact. And that's where the cloud economics comes into the picture, and that's why Google Cloud Platform is comparatively cost effective when you compare it with AWS or Azure, and that's really the beauty of it. How it is different, I guess the 5 points which I would try to cover over this presentation. The kind of security that Google Cloud Platform provides, hybrid and multi-cloud. So when you talk about hybrid cloud, Google Cloud recently launched something called as Anthos. no, that's a deep technical topic, but just to give all the viewers an idea about Anthos. So Anthos is kind of a software layer, because of which you can utilize your on-premise applications. So organizations who are not on cloud, but they are using their in-house infrastructure, they can utilize the services of cloud with the help of Anthos. So no, that's altogether a different topic. But yes, but because of this, the idea of hybrid cloud comes into picture. Hybrid cloud is where you are using cloud services and you are also using some of the servers that are in-house in your own organizations. Then there is something called as no ops or serverless. So serverless is one of the beautiful aspect where Google Cloud Platform has been playing a pivotal role. When I talk about serverless, the services of Google Cloud Platform, which I will take you ahead with Google App Engine, BigQuery, GKE, all this, you need not to be dependent on the infrastructure. You need not to be dependent on your servers. That will be done in the backend by the Google. All you need to focus is on your querying. You need to focus on your code. So all those developers out there, you need not to take worry about whether your infrastructure will scale up, whether you need to do any patching, how it will run 24/7. You need not to worry about. You just do the coding work. You just push your code, and automatically, it will go ahead. So that's the beauty of serverless. And obviously, when I talk about Google Cloud Platform, when you talk about Google itself, the Google search engine, so the capabilities, the kind of data that Google has, the AI/ML capabilities, it's intelligence everywhere which Google uses. This is a very this is one slide which each and everybody should focus upon in terms of what are the services that Google Cloud Platform provides. From left to right, if I take just one example, so on your leftmost there is something called as management. So now imagine a big from your college, he is admin of a Google Cloud account, and Abhik wants to give some kind of permissions to Shilpi so that she can utilize Google Cloud Platform. She can probably use Compute Engine. Compute Engine is a virtual machine in Google Cloud Platform. So that happens through your identity and access management. Your Google Stake Driver is a monitoring tool which organization use to monitor their applications, to monitor their infrastructure. When we go one right step on compute, so compute, first on the top you can see Compute Engine. So Compute Engine is nothing but your virtual machine. The virtual machine, in cloud language we call it as instance. We also call it as instance. Okay, but that's your Compute Engine. Then there is storage, which is your cloud storage, and then there are cloud SQL, a lot of other things, followed by networking, data, and machine learning. So when I talk about machine learning part, there is something called a speech API, vision API, translate API. So all these APIs are utilized by a lot of organizations where they just pull in the APIs in their applications, and they can use the vision API and speech API. I'll come to the vision and speech APIs examples by the end of this presentation. Yeah. So let's talk about network and infrastructure at Google Cloud Platform. So on the right top, you can see that there is a shark who is trying to cut into a pipe. Now, Google Cloud Platform has its own undersea cable networks. So Google doesn't use public network; they use its own undersea network. So they have developed undersea network cables all around the globe. They have made sure that they are secure and they are safe. That even sharks cannot cut it. Your data, your complete network is dependent on Google Cloud Platform network, and Google Cloud Platform, Google uses its own network. As per one of the fact, it says that almost 25% of world's internet traffic routes through this network. This is a map around how the Google Cloud Platform's undersea cables are placed across the globe, and how its network is connected all throughout the world. Uh, so your network actually matters. When I talk about other public cloud providers, what happens is that other public cloud providers uses public network. That is something called as hot potato. The term is called as hot potato, and Google uses cold potato. So cold potato and hot potato, the difference is that when your data uses a public network, no there are a lot of unwanted traffic also comes along with it, whereas Google has its own dedicated channel. So in the bottom, if you can see over here, from the Google Cloud data center, there are Google POP. So POP is point of presence. So Google has its point of presence where your data will go to Google's point of presence in US, to Google's point of presence in India, and then it will go to your internet service provider, and at the end of the day at your organization. Whereas when we talk about other public cloud providers, it has to travel from one public network to another public network, and then from here and there they finally reach it to the customer. So having its own network helps them in optimizing their cost as well, because you have your in-house network, you have your in-house infrastructure. So ultimately, if you are saving something, you need to give back to your customer, and that's where Google is cost optimized also. Now let's talk about compute engine and virtual machine. Shilpi, is there any question in between from anyone? Do let me know. Or shall we go ahead?
Uh, Sir, at the end of the session, we will go through with the questions. You can
Sure.
go
No.
ahead.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. So now compute engine. If you want to run your workloads, if you want to run your application, okay, consider you are creating an application and you want to run your application on Google Cloud Platform. So you need virtual machines. You need servers. In the old time, there used to be servers. So now we call it as virtual machines. So compute engine is what we call as virtual machines. Then you have app engine and container engine. It is now called as Kubernetes engine. Container engine is now called as Kubernetes engine. So when I talk about Google Compute Engine, so Compute Engine provides you the same infrastructure as your in-house servers used to provide, but over here you have all the flexibility. But so for those organizations, for those people who believes that their infrastructure has to be managed by themselves, they want to they want to do those kernel level changes, they want to do their patching. There might be certain organizations where their software package or their applications might be quite old. That containerization, yani, means breaking your application into small services is difficult. So they use compute engine because you get the same infrastructure, but then it's on cloud. So you can utilize compute engine in that way. But now I'll just quickly showcase you. Each and everyone might have gone and you guys might have bought a laptop or a desktop, right? And we call as octa-core processor or quad-core processor. You have 2-core 4 GB machines, 4-core 8 GB machines, 8-core 16 GB machines. All right. One of the most beautiful thing which you will find in Google Cloud Platform, I'll quickly change the link to this. So this is a publicly available calculator. So just for an example of Google Cloud Platform, just for an example, over here, if you can see, there is machine type. Now, if you want to, procure machines, so you find a lot of machines option over here. 2-core 8 GB machine, 4-core 16 GB machine, 8-core 32 GB machine. Okay, and you can maybe select any one of them, and you can just go next, and you will be able to run a machine virtually, and then you can do all your work that you want to do. But imagine that the kind of processing power you need, or you don't need 2-core 8 GB machine, you just need 2-core 6 GB machine. But then if you see over here, you don't have any option. Either you get 2-core 8 GB machine, that's a bare minimum you are starting at, Over here, it's 2-core 4 GB machine. You don't have a 4-core 4 GB machine. You don't have a 2-core 6 GB machine. Now what will you do? No other public cloud provider gives you this flexibility of custom machine type. So you just select custom machine type. You select over here number of cores 4, and your vCPUs, I mean number of vCPUs or cores 4, and then you select memory as maybe just let's take a bit 6.25 or 6 point or just 7. So now the whole idea and beauty of this is you have power in your own hands about what will be the usage. Most of the times, what does companies do is that they procure larger infrastructure, and then the CPU and the cores and RAMs are underutilized. So you are using a machine of 2-core 8 GB RAM, but you are using it only 60%, and you are unnecessarily paying for 2-core 8 GB machine. But now you know that you are using just 60%. You can just scale it down from 2-core to 2-core 8 GB to 2-core 5 GB or 2-core 6 GB. So that's one of the beauty of Google Cloud Platform. One more thing which they believe is, again, giving back to their customers. So most of you will graduate, and then you will join an IT company or maybe a product-based company, or companies like Flipkart, Ola, Uber. Now all these companies, they provide services 24/7, right? So they need their servers to run 24/7, 30 days. Now, if as an organization, as a student, as somebody who is running a server on Google Cloud Platform, a virtual machine on Google Cloud Platform, 24/7 into 30 days, Google believes that because you are utilizing it continuously, they will give back you 30% of the listing price. So that is called a sustained user discount. That's another differentiating factor in Google Cloud Platform. While I was talking about that Google Calculator, which I was showing you, that other vendors, that your virtual machine, your instance configurations are managed by other vendors, while in Google you have all the flexibility. So if you can see, you can utilize the machine with its full processing, with its full utilization. Another, when you will use Google Cloud Console, I'm not sure whether anybody has ever gone to cloud.console.google and actually have launched a VM into Google Cloud. But if you use Google Cloud Console, once you will start using it, within 1 week or 2 weeks, Google will start giving recommendations that, hey, your current machine is you are currently using a 2-core 8 GB machine, but we are able to see that you are just utilizing it 50%. So why don't you change it to 2-core 4 GB RAM? So in this way, as an IT guy, as somebody who is managing the cloud, who is managing the infrastructure for the company, is able to understand that how we can utilize his resources, how we can save further money by reducing the machine size. Just a second. Yeah. And there is preemptible VMs. Let me explain about preemptible VMs. Preemptible VMs, it is what? So preemptible virtual machines, it provides you the same processing like your compute engine. But now just imagine Big Billion Day is coming. Sales, next one day, there is a huge sales on Flipkart. If Flipkart will use compute engine, then it will give them a huge cost. So what they will do, there is an option called as preemptible VMs. So preemptible VMs runs the same processing, but only for 24 hours. So suppose on 10th of November, there is a sale at so and so website. So what they will do is that they will divert the traffic through preemptible VMs. So on that one day, as the traffic increases, the processing which happens, it happens on preemptible VMs, and within 24 hours it will disburst. So but these preemptible VMs are very cost optimized. So you are able to save a lot of cost with 80% cheaper cost, and you are able to help each and every your customer. Your website will not hang up, and you are able to save the cost also. So these are like short-lived instances which runs for 24 hours and then it gets disbursed. Serverless and containers at scale. So I just hope that I'm not going that fast. I want to reach out to all the possible services on Google Cloud platform, so that when you guys, after this session, you go onto Google Cloud website, or you search on Google, and when you will read about App Engine, Kubernetes Engine, you will be able to relate to it. My idea of today's session is that each and everybody who is listening to this, you get used to these jargons, because this all jargons will be useful in each and every cloud providers. It might be named differently, but they are quite similar when it comes to the services. There are point of differences, but then at the end of the day, as I said, it's like learning a car. So yeah, so this is your serverless and containers at scale. So when I talk about, I'll start with App Engine and then we'll go to containers. That is a very interesting topic. So your App Engine, now organizations, or a lot of you might be extremely interested in coding and developing. Okay, you don't want to care that no that whether your infrastructure, how your infrastructure runs, how your virtual machines run. So what you do is that instead of compute engine, you will host your application on Google App Engine. So in Google App Engine, you need not to worry about what is the infrastructure, how it is scaled up. Everything is taken care by Google Cloud. All you need to do is you need to write code. You don't touch your server. You need not to increase your server size, 4 core 8 GB, 8 core 16 GB. वो सब मगजमारी में घुसने की जरूरत ही नहीं है. All you need to do is that you write the code and you push it, and you will be able to scale up. So that's Google App Engine. That is a concept called as serverless. When I talk about Google Kubernetes engines, Kubernetes. So okay, so how can I explain you about Kubernetes? So earlier, what it used to happen, for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, there used to be something called as monolithic architecture. So when I talk about monolithic architecture, imagine, I'll take maybe Flipkart. So now imagine, take an example of Flipkart, and your complete website is on. No, when you enter into a website, there's a login page. On the left hand side, there is a children's clothes, there is men's clothes, there are other essential things, and each and everything is on a different page. Now if an issue comes in menswear, no, you will have to redeploy your complete website, because if there is an issue at one part of the website, you will have to redeploy it, and that takes a lot of effort. So now organizations, now all of you who are listening to this, when you 5 years, 10 years down the line, when you will be working with a product based company, when you'll be working with a IT services company, consulting organizations about cloud, consulting organizations about containers, going on to microservice architecture from monolithic, single monolithic is a single architecture. From monolithic, break it into microservices. So when I talk about microservices, now what happens is that this, imagine, there is a container. So the whole concept of container is that your each page, suppose your menswear page, your women's wear page, your login page on Flipkart website, each and every page has its own environment, and it is packaged under this one environment. So if any issue happens in menswear page, your other microservice, other pages will not be impacted. So you are breaking down your architecture into small containers, and Kubernetes engine is an orchestration. It is an orchestration tool which helps you scale up, which helps you manage all these small containers, and that helps you run the complete website. So that is GKE, Google Kubernetes Engine. In Amazon Web Services, there is something called as EKS. But then Kubernetes is Google's baby, and that's the beauty of Google Kubernetes Engine. Google's every product runs on containerized architecture. Google has moved away from monolithic architecture. Their each and every application works on containerized architecture, so that there is minimal interdependency of one application or one microservices onto another microservices. So as I said, you get a decentralized, independent. Your DevOps, the developers and the coders, all they need to do is that they just need to build the code and they just need to push it. That's the beauty of microservices. So as I said, when you guys, some of you might become a CTO or a CIO of a company 10 years, 15 years down the line. How do you modernize this? So you break your application into smaller services, and then you start using Google Kubernetes engine. You go serverless over here. You go serverless, and then you need not to worry about any patching or anything. It is continuous integration, continuous deployment with the help of your DevOps, and you can have a peaceful night. Now storage type, I'll just keep this slide as it is for 1 minute. There's something called so there are different types of databases that is available. There's a relational database, which is Cloud SQL on Google Cloud Platform. There's Cloud Spanner. There is no SQL. So when I say no SQL, you might have heard about MongoDB, DynamoDB. So you can there's something called as Cloud Data Store, Cloud Bigtable, which manages a lot of this no SQL databases. And then BigQuery. BigQuery is, I would say, one of those services that truly differentiates Google Cloud Platform. We'll come to it on the next slide. Let's just move quickly onto the storage classes. So now data. So how does your data, where does your data get stored? So there are like 4 kinds of data which is available in Google Cloud Platform. Your cold line, near line, regional, and multi-regional. So when I talk about cold line, so imagine your college. Okay, now your college might have data of students from the year 2000 or 2002. Do they require year 2002 data as of now today? I would say maybe once or twice in the year, not on a day-to-day basis. But the current batch data will be required on a day-to-day basis. They might need to give you assignment. They might need those data is requirement on a day-to-day basis. So your old data, which is not used by organization, they store it on cold line storage. So cold line storage is kind of your archival data where you just store it for years, and you have minimal charge, and you store data over there. But the organizations the companies who need data on a day-to-day basis, they store their data on a regional or multi-regional. So what happens is that if you have if you see this graph over here, this is a retrieval frequency. So when you retrieve your data on a day-to-day basis, the graph is in the increasing position from cold line storage to multi-regional storage. So there are 4 types of storages in Google Cloud Storage. It begins with cold line, near line, regional, multi-regional. Again, benefits are your cost of ownership. Your cost is less. These are because it's Google, so the artificial intelligence and your machine language readiness is in Google Cloud Services. I'll quickly move to the I guess I have 10 more minutes, so 5 to 10 more minutes. So I'll quickly jump to the data services. So as I said, BigQuery. Now, BigQuery is something which is used by almost all the organizations who who really wants to do something from their data. I mean, when I say something, is that imagine an organization wants to know that that who are the people who is visiting their website, who are visiting their application, what is their area of interest, whether they are utilizing mobile phones or whether they are utilizing laptops. All those data organizations do have, but what do you do of that data? I mean, वो data पड़ा है आपके पास, अब उसका क्या करोगे? So what you will do is that you will move that data into BigQuery. You will analyze those data. While you analyze those data, you will find a pattern कि अच्छा पिछले 1 महीने में या पिछले 2 महीने में फ्लिपकार्ट के ऊपर 20 से 35 साल की एज के जो लोग हैं उन्होंने मैक्सिमम शॉपिंग किया है. क्यों? क्योंकि शायद ये वर्क फ्रॉम होम हो रहा था और कोविड की वजह से सब घर पे है, तो शायद शॉपिंग हो रही है. तो तुम क्या करोगे, वो 20 से 35 साल की एज के जो लोग हैं उनको जब तुम्हें बिग क्वेरी में तुम एनालाइज करोगे डेटा, तो तुम बाद में उनको टारगेट करोगे, उनको तुम मोबाइल पे एडवर्टाइजमेंट भेजोगे, देन you will send them you will send them advertisements on mobile phone, on their applications. You might be seeing, right, when you are searching a product on Google, you will start getting advertisement on Facebook, Instagram, everywhere, of the same product. Reason being, organization is able to capture your data and is able to target you again by the same advertisement. They came to know that you are searching a product, and they are retargeting you in a day or two. How does that happen? Is that they are analyzing the data with the help of BigQuery. So BigQuery is an offering in which you can analyze the data. For enterprises and huge organizations who have been using Hadoop and Spark, there's something called as Cloud Data Proc. Again, it's quite technical. So Cloud Data Proc is it helps you manage your Hadoop and Spark clusters on Google Cloud Platform. It just takes 90 seconds or less, to fully run your Hadoop and Spark clusters. So in a nutshell, when I talk about Google Cloud Data Services, these are the three priority services that you need to keep in mind. Other services are there, but to start with, focus on BigQuery, Dataflow, and PubSub. PubSub, it helps you send messages. With the help of Dataflow, it helps you run the right pipelines. Again, it's a little bit technical topic. Focus on BigQuery, where you just need to run queries. You need not to be dependent on what infrastructure is there, but you type the queries and you'll be able to analyze it. Your pricing happens around by the kind of query you type and the kind of data that come. Your pricing will not happen on the what are the number of machines that are run in order to run this query. So that's what serverless is. It depends on your queries. Your pricing depends on your queries. It doesn't depend on the number of servers that run in BigQuery. So what I was talking to you guys about, customer journey mapping, retargeting, targeting, how does that happen is you have internal data, you have certain sensor data, you have your social media data, you have your third party data. Now all this data will come from different sources, and they will come into Google Cloud Storage. From this is called as data lake. Data lake is when the concept of data lake is where you get a lot of data from different from different sources, and you put it into a central cloud storage. Now, as per your needs, you start running query in BigQuery, and then you analyze those data. So you will be able to find charts on your screen about, okay, as I say, that age 40 to 50 men are buying this these days, age 15 to 20 girls are buying this these days, and then you target them individually. So that is completely done with the help of data lake. The heart of data lake is BigQuery. So you capture the data, you store it, you process it, and you analyze it. That's how the big data and data lake works in Google Cloud Platform. This is just the last slide. I'll just do a touch and go around machine learning models in Google Cloud Platform. So when I talk about machine learning models in Google Cloud Platform, there's something called as Vision API. There's something called as Speech API. So Vision API, I'll give you a very good example. So the company I work for, Searce, what we have done is that we have created a product called as Recognic. Now this product, what does this product do? Is that you have your Aadhaar card, you have your PAN card. You just scan the you just take a picture, or you can just scan the Aadhaar card, and within 5 to 10 seconds, your complete information will be converted into a JSON format. So what happens is that you will be able to digitize your data. Now, a lot of companies have plethora of documents, plethora of I would say all this Aadhaar card, PAN card, which they have to do a manual data entry work on a day-to-day basis. So what happens is that you use Cloud Vision API in your application. You just bring the API, you embed it into your code, and you use it with your ongoing application. And within no seconds, you will be able to utilize, you'll be able to scan and take out the data from your what we can say pages like Aadhaar card or PAN card. Obviously you need to teach your ML model. So your ML model has to be trained with the help of the cloud machine learning, and TensorFlow is the language which is used. So you need to train them over a period of time. It doesn't happen automatically. You need to scan your thousands and 10,000 Aadhaar card documents, and then slowly and steadily you'll be able to gather those data which you want to. But that's the beauty. That's a vision API. Then you have speech to text API. Then you have translation API, where you translating one language into another, English to Hindi or English to French. So so all these APIs are available on Google Cloud Platform Console. You can just integrate it with your ongoing applications. But this is again, I would not suggest people to dig deep into it right now. If you are starting with cloud right now, in Google Cloud Platform, you begin with how compute engine works, how storage works, how Kubernetes works. Learn about BigQuery if you are interested on the data side, and then slowly and steadily, once you are able to gather much information, much knowledge, you can move on to the next steps. So at the end, I would say the key takeaway is the solid foundation of Google Cloud Platform that is built upon the same infrastructure that YouTube and Gmail and Maps of the world use. It's the same infrastructure over here. The serverless data platform, and which I was talking about, BigQuery, your App Engine, right? If you guys really recollect what I said 10 to 15 minutes ago about App Engine or BigQuery, and then all your developers out there, you need not to worry about your infrastructure. Just start doing the coding work, and your infra will be managed by Google Cloud. So yeah, that's, I guess I am in time. Right, took maybe 5 minutes extra, but yeah, that's in a nutshell what Google Cloud Platform is about. If there are any question, I guess we still have 5 minutes. We can take up some questions. Shilpi.
Thank you, sir, for this insightful session. So, the question that I would like to ask is how a graduate like you should proceed while learning like Google Cloud. Like, how do they proceed?
Okay, so see, there are a lot of courses available on Coursera, on Khan Academy. A lot of courses are available, but I would say there is nothing like YouTube. Okay, you get tons of videos on YouTube, but how you should begin with it? You should start with the basics. You need to understand what do you mean by compute engine. You need to understand what do you mean by basic infrastructure. So start reading stuff, and I would suggest. A lot of you who might be interested in learning cloud, in knowing how cloud works, what you should do is that no obviously you need your credit card or something. So you need your credit card to create an account on Google Cloud Platform, but you get initial $300 which Google provides to each and every new user. Okay, you have to be very much cautious when you are using it. But no slowly and steadily, once you start getting information, you should start what you can say, you need to do, I would say, on the go. You should start exploring the console. That's the beauty of it. So begin with basic learning, and then you start exploring the console of Google Cloud Platform. Once you will get your hands dirty, you will learn a lot.
So, is there any material that you suggest, or anything that you have like gone through, any material or such, any YouTube channel or anything?
So just an anecdote I would like to share. I did my engineering back in 2013, and in my final semester, in my second last semester, my HOD, my head of department, was the one who used to cloud, and I was all set to prepare for my MBA. Okay, and I never used to focus on what my faculty was teaching, because I was like, I don't want to make a career in IT. I want to become an MBA, so this will not be needed, right? So I was careless at that time. I still remember the kind of vibes that I gave, about what is cloud and stuff. Luckily, unfortunately, karma found its own way, and 6 years down the line, I've been selling cloud. When I joined Searce two and a half years ago, trust me, the only knowledge that I had about cloud was what you guys might be having, or not even that. But in 2.5 years, once you start exploring, there's nothing like sky is the limit. So from a material aspect, I would say, internet itself is the vast sea that is available. You just search about Google Cloud Platform, you will find tons of it. But still, there are Udemy courses, there are Coursera courses, which are available, which are paid courses. You can subscribe to them, and those are beautiful courses where you can apply, and you can start learning. But I would say, don't go for paid services. Just find your own way in terms of whatever is available on the internet.
Thank you, sir. I hope that will help to everyone else and not to me also. Thank you
Sure.
for your time. It was a wonderful session. Thank you again, sir.
Shilpi, just before we bid goodbye, I would once again congratulate you guys for organizing an amazing event in this pandemic, where students are at home, where people are at home. I guess it's an amazing event. The way Abhik has been constantly following up with me on LinkedIn, trying to make sure that I'm available for this session. I would really congratulate your team for organizing an amazing session, and thanks a lot for having me. And anybody who
Thank
would like to have any information, you can connect me on LinkedIn. Parth Sanghani is my name, and you can connect me on LinkedIn, and I'll be grateful to help anybody in terms of any career or life decisions that you want to make. You can reach out to me.
Thank you, sir, for your kind words, and we will love to connect with you. And I hope everyone else will do as well.
Thanks
Thank
a
you
lot.
again.
Thank you. Yeah.
So now we have with us Mr. Amar Kalvikatte. He is currently working as Nutanix Cloud Solution Architect and take lead for Europe, Russia, Middle East, Africa, UK, and Scotland. He has a vast 20 plus years of experience. Is an ex-CTO of Liberty Global. Today, he will give us an introduction to Nutanix cluster on AWS. Please welcome Mr. Kalvikatte.
Okay, let me share my screen. Hope all you can see my screen.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So before I start, I would like to first thank you, Chirag Nair and Abhinay, for bringing me here. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you, and thank you for giving me an opportunity. I would like to really thank to Netaji Subhash Engineering College of Engineering, Kolkata. So I will introduce myself. My name is Amar Kalvikatte, as she'll briefly introduce. Currently, I'm working with Nutanix over 10 months now, and looking after the EMEA, Europe, Middle East, Africa, UK, and Scotland, and helping our partners and customer to be on the digital transformation journey, as well as helping us not to have the many pain points, and how we as Nutanix can um, jump in and try to solve the customer problems. Say, as a Nutanix, every time we look at from the customer centric point of view, because if there is no customer, there is no business. So you need to be sure that customer are the cash a king, but also they are god for us, because they're paying everything. Like, they're paying my salary, that means they're paying running my family, running everything. So we have to be sure that we are doing right thing for a customer. And with that, I will tell you why Nutanix is a small company but niche company, running in the market and discovered in many places. So before I go into that, as you are the Netaji Subhash College is from Kolkata. Of course, 22nd of October, which is Thursday, Durga Puja is coming, and I would like to basically congratulate, as well as would like to wish you happy Durga Puja. And I wish everyone will safe and everyone will find the right path to come out of the pandemic situation. Finger crossed for everyone. With that, I would like to roughly go about the agenda today. I'm going to talk about Nutanix. What is Nutanix, right? Because a lot of people are aware about public clouds, hyperscalers, but nobody knows about Nutanix. Then how Nutanix has born, and how we are disrupting market, how we are competing against the hyperscalers like Amazon and Google and Microsoft Azure. And also we are having ecosystem along with them, and we are doing joint business together. Then I'll roughly touch all those points. So the agenda is, I will let you know about what is Nutanix, what are the customer challenges, right? If the innovation is found, because there are so many challenges are there, and that's the reason um, new entrepreneurs create innovation and they disrupt the market. So we'll talk about how Nutanix, how our founder Dheeraj Pandey has taken those approaches. Roughly touch about private and public cloud, which has become the hybrid cloud. Then today's topic, basically, Nutanix cluster on Amazon Web Services or public cloud. Amazon Web Services is just an example, but how we are even bringing the cluster on every public cloud, which becomes the multi-cloud and becomes the hybrid cloud at the end of the day. So what are the key technical drivers, what are the business challenges and the drivers? And then we'll think about the consumption model. And if the time allowed, we will go through the Q&A. Hope that sounds good. So moving forward to that agenda, before, because this Subhash in the College of Engineering is from Kolkata, and our Dheeraj Pandey, our CEO founder, he's from Bihar originally. But I will take 1 minute time, because this is also the motivation part for you become tomorrow's entrepreneur, tomorrow's leader in the market. If you look at Dheeraj, um, I think more than 20 years ago, he completed his BTech from IIT Delhi, and then he decided, like, what is my next step in my career? So he got a scholarship, I think $3,000. I think there is a video on YouTube you can go through. So he got 3,000 scholarship from Mahindra and Tata, and he took that $3,000. He basically gave $1,000 to his parents, 900 so $1,000 he spent on the flight, and with $900 and a suitcase, he left India. And look at his now. He left the India. He did his master in US. He took a dropout from PhD, and he decided, why can't you go in a companies like Oracle, get the knowledge, everything. And he took the knowledge. He basically understood, like, how those big giant companies are working, and he took all the experience. He found out there are many challenges are out there, and the big companies cannot solve it. So how can a company like Nutanix, with his vision, he basically decided, anyway, just leave those companies, come to the market, start your own company with a different vision. And the vision was invisible computing. I will bring you that context together. But with that vision, he started the company in 2009, almost 12 13 years back. And now if you look at the number of products in infrastructure service, platform as service, and even the software service, how he has taken the approach. So luckily, I said, I was working with Liberty Global and doing my principal architect CTO role. And during that time, I met Dheeraj in Copenhagen, Denmark. There was a big .next event, and I got an opportunity to meet him. I got convinced that it's a company to work for, and basically I brought on the board. And since 1st of January, I'm part of the Nutanix, working closely with our founder and many great teammates within the Nutanix. So as I said, that's a vision of our founder Dheeraj Pandey. So if you look at his vision, is, as I said, invisible computing. What does that mean? I'll come to that, and you will understand by end of the few slides that what is mean by the invisible computing. And if you look at the mission, he wants to build a trusted software platform that making our customer experience frictionless. So he wants to make everything. If you look at today, whether the previous speaker even talked about the Google Cloud Anthos platform on premise. If you look at Google also and some other public cloud providers, they're also doing software based. Everything is software based, so there is no manual intervention you need to look at. So exactly that vision, even Dhira started in 2009. That means he was really ahead of the curve. He was thinking too far away. 2009, he came with that approach that he knew 13 years ahead that the software will be the king, and everything will be running like automation, running everything without touching to any GUI. No need to have the manual intervention. Everything will be automation with scripting, with blueprints and everything. With that vision, he started, as I said, 2009, and in 7 years or 6 years, immediately the company becomes 1 billion in the revenue. It's not easy to become that quick to become a billionaire company. But if you look at now, today we are running more than 130 countries, uh, the business. And if you look at top 10 over close to 7,000 17,000 total customers across 130 countries. If you look at the Gartner, we are the magic quadrant leader over more than 5 years now in the hyperconverged infrastructure. I will come to that. What does that mean is, and if you look at, we started as a company with hardware and software. Then the next move was only the software. But if you look at now, since last year, we are doing subscription based services. That means you don't need to worry about hardware, software. You need to worry about what you consumed and how much you need to pay at the end of the day. With that vision, now we are moving towards not only competing with hyperscaler like Google or Amazon or even Oracle and Alibaba, but we also making an ecosystem with them, because we also know that there is no one fit for all approach. Nobody's 100%, and of course we are not 100% either. So there is a possibility of being synergy. There is a possibility of being joining a collaboration and going together in a market to make sure that the customer are not surviving. Because ultimately, everyone, even our motto and even some other companies' motto is make sure that customer is happy at the end of the day, and we give the delightful service together. So as I said, the vision is invisible computing, no matter it's on premise and public cloud or multi cloud. Then even if you look at the mission, we want to be sure that the customer should not have any issues even using our services, and it should be frictionless. That means they should not see there is some sort of a fire running in between. And that, with that vision, if you look at what currently Nutanix is doing, is basically bringing the cloud everywhere. That means with Nutanix you can run everything on AWS, Google GCP or Azure and Alibaba tomorrow, or maybe Oracle. So that continuous innovation and integration is ongoing. We haven't even announced it, but as of today, we are available on AWS, which is general availability, and Azure. In 6 months from now, you will see that we are also having the bare metal services running on those public cloud or hyperscalers. So if you look at why we are doing that journey, because as you know that today the focus is on the data. As you probably heard many events, you might be reading, you might be doing your certification on data engineer or data analytics. If you look at today, data is new oil, new currency. And recently I came to know from my France colleagues, they like gold, so they said data is a new gold. So that means there are multiple names, but the bottom line is we need to be sure that we have tons of data, but how we can reuse that data and give the real time information back to the customers. I will give an example of Google, right? So data analytics, AI, machine learning is not new. Actually, probably you might think these are the new services, but if you look at Google, 2000, I think 2004 or 5, Google Maps was fully introduced, and since slowly the usage started. But if you look at Google Maps, for example, if you put your source and destination, you don't need to put this source. Basically, you put the destination where you want to go to, and the moment you click on start, Google Map immediately tell you need to go left versus right, because it already has your data. It's already has algorithm running in there with that data, and the intelligence will telling you should go right. It is 2 kilometers away. Before that, there you need to take left and right. All that insight has Google already has it. That means that those AI, machine learning, and artificial intelligence is not new. It's already there since many years, but now because the the revolution is starting now, we are into the age of artificial intelligence, where data is very, very important. Everything is API driven. Everything has to, if you look at the infrastructure, now everybody is writing a code, just pushing the code, and the infrastructure is up and running, right? Like somebody talked before, the Kubernetes. If you look at the Kubernetes, also writing some codes to create the pod, create the containers, and basically running applications, and even migrating and scaling your application in a minute without even going tons of clicks. You can do it with some scripting, and that's where the automation taking place. That's where we also in that in the race of automation. And you will see like how Nutanix is adding value to the customers. And value meaning, like we are helping customer to not only reduce the cost, but we are also helping customer not to have many faults, many outages, many manual errors, because at the end of the day, who operates it is a manual. So how we can minimize those efforts by just putting the right scripts in place and making sure that they are ready to deploy, ready to scale their application and across the globe in minutes, because the public cloud has already multiple regions, and you take the same code, same app, architecture, and you just build in other region, it's up and running in couple of minutes, right? That's where the growth power, that's where the customer are making the distributed kind of applications. Now, moving to that, I'll go few years back, and even if you look at 30% of the customer are still running this legacy architecture. So of course we are talking about Nutanix cluster on AWS, but also you need to understand how the journey started and how the customer has started taking approach to becomes going to the public cloud, to moving towards that direction. So if you look at this architecture, what I mean by, you have the server. Of course, there was a bare metal server. Probably, with my 20-year experience, I started with bare metal services, working for customers, putting the in a racking, stacking, patching, then basically connecting consoles, configuring, and then what happens? You do SSH and then manage remotely. But if you look at what was the scenario before, is there was a separate server, there was a separate storage, there was a separate networking, and there was application running on top. So what happens? The server and the storage, or the data which is read and write from the server to the storage, there was a network in between. So what happened if there is a network issues, if there is a bottleneck in the network because the bandwidth is less and that storage data is more, you have to have some sort of latency, some sort of performance issues, right? But look at the customer challenges, right? I'm just talking one part of this. So what was that because you buying servers from different vendors, you're buying storage from different vendor, you're buying network from different vendors, so you become having higher TCO is total cost of ownership. That means TCO is nothing but a capex and opex. Capex is initial investment, and the opex is the cost you run from the life cycle of that product. That means if you buy a server in the year one, and the life cycle of the server is like 5 years, you basically need to go through that 5 years life cycle of the server. If there is outages, you need to pay for the cost, because you need to put 200 engineers to solve the big problem, or you need to have some consultant who can come and solve your problem, because the server is from X company and the storage from the Y company. You need to have the two separate vendors, two separate SLAs is service level agreements, then purchase orders and support systems. So for example, if there is an outage, you need to call separately to the server team, and you need to call separately to your storage team. And what happens, they said, oh, if there is no problem from server, there's no problem from the storage, and the network team says there is no problem from network. So whom to blame at the end of the day? So those are the things, many things happened. And of course, nowadays look at that, you need to have the more skills, because there is a server team is separately, storage team separately, and the networking. So there is a silos in the organizations, right? And the silos never talk to each other, because there is a communication gap, or nobody wants to take the responsibility, nor nobody wants to take the blame. So these are the challenges where there. And look at now why our founder Dheeraj Pandey took an approach after leaving the Oracle, after leaving his career, he decided to be an entrepreneur, and he wanted to come and solve this big giant mess. So what he has created is he created the concept called hyper converged infrastructure, which is, if you look at hyper converged infrastructure, means everything is converged, right? So there is no separate server, there is no separate storage, there is no need of network in between, and you just simply run the application on, instead of three tier architecture, you run on the same platform. Yeah, so you run everything, because in that box, Nutanix box, you already have the server, which is compute capacity, and the storage capacity, and which is local, so you don't need to go to the hassle of network, right? So network is become the bottleneck. There is a latency, there is a chances of losing the data, or there is chances of not getting the data at the right time when some user is connected to server and he cannot get his file, for example. So those are the things basically taken into account, and that's where Dheeraj, our founder, he basically decided to have the concept called hyperconverged infrastructure, to basically try to minimize this big mess where there are big bunch of monies are going, but also so many efforts needs to be done when there is outages. So what does that mean is it's fully an integrated scale out platform. So what happens, you start with few nodes, you just add more nodes for adding more capacity, more, and you can scale your application landscape. And that's where the company basically taken the vision of hyper converged infrastructure. Now if they look at the HCI, what we are doing with Nutanix cluster on AWS and Nutanix cluster on Azure and GCP, the same wording, which is hyper converged infrastructure today, but now it is hybrid cloud infrastructure. So we have taken the same approach at HCI, hybrid cloud, and I'll tell you why hybrid cloud. Probably people say like public cloud is really the way to go, but there is also concept of why not public cloud, why to have hybrid cloud. I will tell you the story, right? Because of their concerns, it's not about just because cloud is fully available and you can just go and use it, but if you become the giant company, if you have the business across the globe, how the public cloud also hurts you in the business. But also you need to have the hybrid approach. Of course, it's not about, I'm talking about their bad versus who are good. It's about the regulations, is about data sovereignty issues because of the local governance, because of the Cloud Act and GDPR in Europe and Cloud Act in US, how you need to keep your data as close as possible to your region. So those are the things really matters in the business. So I talked about the initial let's say vision Dheeraj came up with. But now if you look at the Nutanix journey, we have tons of products in the market, tons of product in the sense of we have the product running in infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and SaaS as a service. So we are basically not saying okay, you cannot you just take Nutanix and you build IaaS. But now if you look at, we are into every single service model: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software service. That means with the Nutanix value proposition, you can build your on-premise infrastructure as a public cloud only with one single partner. And we called it as a strategic partner because we really want to be sure that we add the value, minimizing our the cost spent, but also minimizing your number of people, where our focus is on the developer versus legacy people. So if you look at now the core services, we have the our operating system, AOS, Acropolis operating system, the hypervisor, Acropolis hypervisor, and the Prism, which is a management platform. That was the core service we started, which is still, even today, you can take it as a platform of service and you can build the infrastructure. And that's where you will take these three basic stuff, core stuff, in also Azure, as well as AWS, also as GCP in the future. And with that, you can build without touching to the EC2 instances. You don't need to touch it, because you can even go to our compute Nutanix clusters on AWS with bare metal services, and you still have the same AOS, same hypervisor, same Prism. And I'll tell you why Prism. There is a fundamental of cost saving and also management, common management platform. and and you will understand that is the beauty of these companies moving forward to the customer into hybrid cloud. So looking at the platform as a service, if you look at now Carbon, we are also Kubernetes based services. So with Nutanix Carbon, you can run containers with Kubernetes, without having our competitive services in mind. You can take the Carbon, you can run the Kubernetes along with, and everything is integrated. Kibana, Elasticsearch, even everything is into. So data visualization is already there, data analytics already there. So fully integrated platform running on Nutanix with AOS and AHV. So if you look at the era, if you look at the pandemic, we are making huge business on Era as well as Zyframe. So Era is basically a database as a service. That means if you have, let's assume that there is a big customer. Just take an example. X company has 10 databases. So Oracle, Postgres, MongoDB, let's say MySQL. And now look at, there is a number of databases. That means you need number of people to manage the database. You need to do provisioning, patching, lifecycle management, etc. So that means if there is a maintenance cycle comes, the 5 or 10 engineers need to work on day and nights to basically make that uh, maintenance window cover, and everything is done, provisioning, patching, and security updates, etc. Now with Era, you don't need to have 5 or 10 engineers to look after that. Era basically does automation of those provisioning, patching, and everything, and with one click. The Nutanix has a fundamental called one click. That means with one click you just push it, and behind the scene everything runs. And I think instead of hours or days, it will happen less than an hour, and your patching, provisioning, and everything is up to date, and it's done. So you don't need multiple engineers. That means you don't need to invest too much of cost behind the scene. Nutanix basically solve those lifecycle management easily. If you look at the Frame, which is VDI or virtual desktop as a service, this is a SaaS model. If you look at the green, it's all SaaS model. The Leap is a disaster recovery of services. That means you can, if you have infrastructure running on premise or your own data center, and if you don't want to use public cloud, and public cloud will be your disaster recovery. That means if the on-premise data center is burned or something happened, you still use public cloud, and then automatic uh, failover happen with the Leap services. So if you look at many products, we already have it. I will talk about Calm and Beam in few next slide. How I'm talking with Nutanix cluster on AWS, how Calm and Beam are helping customer to reduce the deployment cycle, but also adding value towards saving the cost. So as of today, we are generally available into Amazon Web Services with Nutanix cluster on bare metal services, and very soon, I think 4 to 6 months from now, uh, we will be also available on Microsoft Azure on a bare metal service, and that will be generally available soon. So with that, Nutanix is basically a platform for multi-cloud workloads. So no matter where your workloads or applications are running, you still have the same in Nutanix platform, same management tool, same architecture, same standard. You don't need to think about too many stuff in AWS, too many stuff in Azure, too many stuff in GCP. Our previous speaker just told about so many things like App Engine, Compute Engine, etc. You don't need to think about it. You don't need to worry about it. As long as you're working with Nutanix with these few things, you have the same experience in public cloud without touching to their underlying proprietary stuff, right? I mean, proprietary means basically you cannot modify the APIs, you cannot modify the code because it's already written, and there is no way you can basically modify or customize. With Nutanix, Calm, and you can write your own scripting with Python, YAML, .NET, or even JSON. Name it, it's in your hand. As long as you are a developers or code savvy, whatever it is, let's say YAML, you can use that with the blueprints and just roll out in infrastructure, and in minutes you will start building your applications. That's where the beauty of Nutanix as a platform. Now if you look at, now I talked about Nutanix, but you look at the customer perspective, right? If you think from the customer, so customer, if like I said, my job as of today as a leader or engineer or name it, the position doesn't matter. But the moment I go to the customer, I need to talk to the C-level people first. Why? Because they hold the budget, they are the influencer, and they know exactly what are the objectives of their organization, how much budget they hold for the year to spend, and how much they need to spend because there is a pandemic now. And of course the cost saving is very important because we are not adding new customers because everything is halted for now. So how we can reduce the cost? So there are three different factors every C-level people look at. C-level means CEOs, CFOs, and CTOs or CDOs, chief digital officers. So what are the three things? The risk, the cost, and time. Risk means if I take this X as a vendor, or let's say if they take Nutanix, they have to think what is the risk associated with Nutanix. If they take public cloud, what are the risk associated with public cloud? Then how much time I need to deploy my application with Nutanix or with public cloud, then how much cost I need to burn behind the scene. All those three things they have to look at. Then only they will conclude that okay, this is the right platform versus that is the wrong platform. Of course, there is no right or wrong platform, but of course they have which platform basically solve these underlying things. That is the right platform. Of course, I really salute every single company who and their people who's working day and night to make their own products fascinating. I'm not doubting my competitors are bad versus we are good. No, everybody is on the same page, but it's the customer choice to decide who is adding the value for saving the cost, minimizing the deployment cycle, making sure that there is no outages. That's where Nutanix is adding value. I'm not saying our competitors are not, but Nutanix definitely looking those challenges into the market. So then you need to think about what if I'm out of the data center and going to the public cloud. Like I said, it's not about public cloud is good or bad. It's about, as I said, the regulations. If you look at the GDP, I'm based out of Netherlands. That means a part of Europe. There is a one act called GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation. What does that mean is if my data, my mobile number, my credit card number, my bank account, etc., it should not be provided to let's say US or Europe or something unless and until I as a user, unless and until the bank as a entity needs to be approved, needs to be validated. That means the data should not be violated. Let's assume that tomorrow you are sharing my data without knowing me. I can, or the, and even the regulation can sue us, right? So that means the data needs to be stay local, right? That's the one act within the Europe. Let's talk about Cloud Act. Cloud Act is a American act. That means the same way. The Cloud Act, that means the American data should stay in American soil. It should not go to some other part of the world, right? So that's the reason you need to think whether cloud is a good approach at basically keeping the data, and that's the reason region has been born also in the public cloud. So you could build in US East Coast or West Coast, and then use the Frankfurt region for AWS, or even Amsterdam region for Azure, or GCP is let's say Paris. So you need to think like how I can provision my workloads running locally and also consuming my traffic locally to have the low latency, high performance. You need to think about, and that's where the C-level people focusing on, right? And also if you look at refactoring your architecture, like if you have the infrastructure running on premise and you have the infrastructure running in public cloud. So what happens is that you have, let's assume that you have Nutanix as one management tool, and you have the Amazon Web Services AWS console or RDK or API. You have two different services, two different people to manage it, two different people to have the knowledge about different worlds, right? So that's where we are putting our innovation is, without having the knowledge about AWS services, even you can put your infrastructure in AWS without touching to the management console of AWS. That means you click on the creating instant like EC2 instance, and you're attaching the EBS volumes, you are using S3 bucket, and then you need to write the storage accounts and everything. You need to use an IAM, you need to have the security posture. So that means you have the, let's say, security groups and NACL separately, then you have the storage for the bucket level policies. All those things you don't need to look at, right? What we do is, let's say you have the on-premise security posture, you can take the same security posture on the public cloud with marketplace as an ecosystem. So let's assume that you have a Palo Alto firewall running on premise with integration with Nutanix. You can utilize the same thing in public cloud, and you can have the same policy management. So say, source destination IP, allow this. You can take the same approach and building in the public cloud without writing the separate security groups, which is instant based, and separate NACL, which is on the subnet level. It's too many hassles, too many configuration, too many things to remember, right? And when there is outages, then you need to think, oh, how can I troubleshoot my network? How should I troubleshoot my storage? How should I troubleshoot my proprietary stuff? That's where the hassle is, right? That's where the people spend time. And like building is easy because you're not putting your workloads in a production. But when it becomes production, when we become customer focused, then business isn't critical. Business should, the consumer should always have the availability and the basically performance, right? They want to see like the application is fully available. For example, look at WhatsApp. If the WhatsApp is not available for 1 hour, you think like I'm dying, right? So that means the WhatsApp should be always available, should be having performance, because somebody is sending the message, it should be instantaneous. So if you're really in the bank and you want to know the code, and there are people running, like you want to take the money from the ATM and you forgot your, let's say, pin code, and you want to have the pin code from your mother or from your father, and you just text me on the WhatsApp. And if they're texting and you don't give the message in 1 hour, you have to leave the queue, you have to go back again, right? Just an example, just out of the box example. Everything has to be instantaneous. That's the reason the low latency high performance is really key for you to write. And that's where you will see why hybrid cloud, why the on-premise stuff also equally important as public cloud. And I also give an example how big giant companies are also moving towards that direction. If you look at you will see like these numbers, but I will come to you again. If you look at the private cloud, why private cloud has been built is predictable workloads. So you can have the predictable workload where you can have x amount of storage and CPU and everything. You can build it and you can customize it and you can run there, right? But also you need to bring the cost effectiveness stuff, regulation in place, etc., etc. Other side, if you look at the public cloud, as I said, Google or Microsoft, Azure, Alibaba, name it. There are plenty of other providers also. Why they're doing? Because they want elasticity, scalability. Everything is cloud native, but then again, it is proprietary to that particular cloud, right? If you look at Google, Amazon has monitoring services like CloudWatch and basically the CloudTrail. So you can only use an AWS, but you cannot use that into GCP if you have the multi-cloud. Google said, what, we have the cloud, basically stack driver, which you can run in Google Cloud on-premise and and public cloud, which is AWS, which is beautiful because you can use the same monitoring. But like I said, Nutanix says, what, in even more beauty is you can take any monitoring things or anything from us, and you don't need to worry about underlying different cost governance, different monitoring, different life cycle management, different automation. It's one that fit and solve everything beneath. That's where the beauty of Nutanix, right? So if you look at the number, probably you will see, okay, I should go left towards my public cloud or I should go right on my private cloud. The answer is a hybrid cloud, because as I said in the first place, there is nothing one fit for a one approach. There is always a combination of both, and both world really will exist tomorrow. And if you look at Gartner, if you look at Forbes, if you look at some other reports, the number, even I'm not talking in 2018 or 20, if you look at 2023 number, 85% or roughly that, it will become hybrid and multi-cloud. That means you will consume X service from Google, Y service from Amazon, and X services from Microsoft. And maybe we fit everything within that three different platform, because you don't need to have separate knowledge, separate TCO. We own that too for you. We basically give you that flexibility, and that's what I will tell you how we do it together. Even reusing our licenses we already bought from us. So I'll, before I go to this one, I will share you the hybrid cloud. Probably you might think, Amar, you are lying. You are telling like public cloud is the way to go and private not. No, look at this. Probably you see this. I hope you can see my screen. There is a the IBM, which is our competitors, some sort we are partners to. And recently, I think 8th of October, if you look at this on their own website too, if you look at, IBM is accelerating hybrid cloud growth, and they are spinning their basically market leading infrastructure service unit. They knew that it's a huge opportunity. 1 trillion is huge market opportunity, and they really want to grab the majority of the shares. What does that mean? Everybody wants to go into that hybrid cloud strategy, multi-cloud strategy. And it's not about Nutanix, is about big giant vendors, companies like IBM. And even look at Google. Why Google is coming on premise with Anthos, which to make it hybrid. Why Amazon podcast. Basically they put on the public on premise. Why Microsoft is coming with integration of some other partners? Because they knew that majority of the customers are still wanted to stay on premise because of many regulatory issues, because of their engineers are already having the knowledge and the skills, and they don't want to even move to the public clouds because they're losing the skills, they're losing the right knowledge. So just an example out of the box, without my basically non touching my slides, and you will now understand why hybrid cloud really makes sense for customers. So now, after I talked too much about, because I wanted to give some insight, like why public cloud, right? Why combination of public cloud? Why Nutanix cluster on public cloud? Now you little bit understood about the legacy approach. You little bit understand about what are the challenges there, right? So now I'll think about the Nutanix cluster on AWS or Azure in 6 months from now. But today you can even deploy Nutanix cluster on Amazon Web Services right away, by even just swapping your credit card, and just basically use the bare metal service and start running your infrastructure, Nutanix infrastructure, not the AWS infrastructure, Nutanix infrastructure. So what does that means? If you look at now today, you already have the Nutanix infrastructure. That means you have the storage, compute, network, which is fully integrated on Nutanix boxes. And you have, as I said, you have the files, you have the files which is run on the NFS and SMB. Then you have the database, you have, let's say, object level storage. All that you already have the on premises, and you want to consume the same experience on public cloud. So what we do is basically the same. So you don't need to consume the public cloud services. You can take the same approach and you built it on AWS. That means you still have the same infrastructure running there. As I said, era as database service, object as the object storage like S3. You don't need to consume S3. You can use our object storage. The flow, which is network micro segmentation. That means you can keep everything local, and you run the policies next to your virtual machine, or your basically instance. Then you have the file, which is network based. Then if you have two availability zones and you need to have the common file store, you can use it without touching to the EFS, like elastic file storage from AWS. So what we are trying to do, without consuming many AWS services, you can use the same experience from on premise, and you can get the same experience in public cloud, just consuming the bare metal services from AWS. You don't need to even consume any other services, but still you can basically run the same infrastructure from on premise to the public cloud, right? And the beauty of all that is, as I said, you already have the management plane to manage your platform on premise. You don't need to have the AWS console. You don't need to have to connect to the AWS RDKs or APIs. You still have the one common management platform from Nutanix. And without touching to the AWS, you also see that AWS you from your same management plane. And that's where the beauty. You don't need to have two separate windows open, two separate troubleshooting things happen. That's not needed. And everything is integrated. That means the monitoring is integrated, the cost governance is integrated, and also the beauty about is the provisioning and everything will happen from one single management plane. And that's where we are reducing the cost beneath. So as I said, it's not about the cost, but also we are making cloud native. So for example, you already have the on premise, and now you want to have the public cloud, where majority of the customer, like when I was at Liberty Global, if you look at what we were doing is everything is on premise. But because you want to add the capacity, that means you need to procure your the hardware, you need to procure your storage and everything. So you need to purchase, somebody needs to build in the racks, somebody needs to do patching, stacking, somebody needs to do like say installing the operating system, security patches, building the application. That takes 3 to 4 weeks, right? Instead of doing that, you build your on public cloud infrastructure with Nutanix. You build it in day one, you run your dev test UAT, and bring that experience back to the public into the on premise by just running your production there, right? So that's where you need to use of two clouds for two different purposes. You can still keep your production running here, but you can run your dev test and even staging environment in public cloud. And that's where the experience is seamless, because there is an ability to run your application from this side and also run application on other side, and you can bring the experience back. So there is a mobility. The word is called mobility. Mobility means there's a flexibility of pulling the infrastructure from left to right or right to left. We do not stop you. The choice is yours, and you have the flexibility to bring your infrastructure. And the other beautiful thing is, let's assume that you already have the compute and storage and some other like calm as a service, and you already have the spare licensing. Even if you bought the 200 licenses, you use 50 licenses and you have the 50 left, you don't need to additionally buy from us. You can use that 50 and you reuse those 50 licenses in AWS. So there is no extra cost you need to bear into account. You don't need to put extra licensing bear into account. That's where we are helping you to save the cost. We are helping you to reutilize the existing spend, and that's where we are adding the value to the customer. Yeah, I hope that is clear for you. And what are the technical, these are the technical drivers. So look at the business driver. As I said, we are minimizing the risk, cost, and even refactoring. If you look at now, this architecture is the same architecture here. So your engineers, your architect do not need to build two separate architectures. So one architecture here, because you have the region, then you have the VPC, which is part of the availability zones. You build elastic load balancer where you have the different let's say three public subnets, then run elastic load balancer. Then you have the database with private subnet, you need NAT instances. Then you basically build for the database to face the patching. All that security group, NACL, everything you don't need to look at, because you are taking the same security posture from on premise to public cloud, right? So that's where the refactor is not needed. Everything is same architecture, same infrastructure, say copy paste codes. So you can reuse your codes, you can build the same infrastructure. And I'm talking the public cloud means this is one region in, let's say, Asia. You take the same configuration to Europe, same configuration to US, and just scale out your infrastructure across the globe. Yeah, so that's where the beauty of leveraging Nutanix cluster on public cloud. And as I said, you can take this credit. That means same licensing you can reuse all the places. And what does that mean is a fully multi deployment. What does that mean is, now this is AWS and tomorrow Azure is there. You take the same approach to the Azure, and still you have the multi cloud and hybrid cloud infrastructure with one management. So that means you are not, even tomorrow you are adding AWS and GCP, you're not touching to the Azure console or AWS console or Google console. You are sticking to the Nutanix Prism Central, which is the management tool of Nutanix, and you're not going out of that tool. And that's where the beauty of this company and the vision our founder basically taking further into action. And as I said, license mobility, that means you can pull the licenses. If you want to close your infrastructure and you want to bring back it, you can reuse those licenses, because the license period is 3 years or 5 years, and you can use it anytime you want within that period. And that's where we are the leading into the industry as of today, and we are niche in the market, and that's where the description is happening. So if you look at the use cases, you might think like, Amar, you talked about the legacy approach, you talked about the Nutanix infrastructure, you talked about public and multi-cloud. How can I use my infrastructure? How can I build the use cases, right? So if you can do use cases, what can be use cases? So just take and lift and shift. So let's assume that tomorrow you don't want to have on-premise infrastructure, because you don't want to purchase, you don't want to basically manage, so you don't want to rent something from the co-location or your own data center. You want to get rid of course you can do that. You don't need to, if you go to AWS, you don't need to even add 200 engineers who has AWS solution architect certified or professional certified. Even there are people I know that certified, but they then, I don't need to know that, tell that how they become certified. But then question is, when they really want to do migration from on-premise to public cloud, do they have right knowledge, do they have right skill? The answer is no. There are tons of people certified, even everybody's posting I'm certified this and that, but the moment you need to have the migration experience, the moment you really want to take the approach about, oh, okay, I have this storage, let's say 200 terabyte of my storage on premise, and I want to take it. How can I take it? How can you use a snowball from AWS and basically copy the data locally, ship from the truck, ask AWS to use that data? First, of course, before you migrating, you need to think about, my data should be first available, rather than designing application, rather than building the infrastructure. If the data is not available, you cannot do read write locally, right? So you need to be sure that data take you must take the data first. So as of today, that's where we you need to have the knowledge about on-premise and hybrid clouds and the multi-cloud. Just knowing one thing doesn't solve the underlying problem, because if you want to be the chief architect, or if you want to be an entrepreneur in the future, you need to have the knowledge about everything. It's not about just infrastructure. Okay, I can write my AWS infrastructure because simple region, then availability zones, and then make VPC as a bubble, then you create multiple VPCs, make VPC peering. That's not the case. That's of course the design parameter, but you need to think about how you take the customer data from on-premise to the public cloud, how you can bring it back. Do I have the knowledge about storage and application? Do I understand the databases? Do I understand my let's say microsegment application? Like container is booming, right? Everything is but containers cannot solve the database problem, because database need IO intensive things, memory and CPU, everything. So how should I take everything in account and I can use it, right? So you cannot basically use database for just rolling out the huge database like Oracle on container. That's simply possible. But then if there is a scale, like the scale of Netflix, display or others, how you can take into account, right? So of course that's where we are adding the value. If you look at the databases also, like AWS has a Aurora, which has five times bigger than scalable than MS SQL, and three times scalable than Postgres. We are doing the same thing. Like you have Era, you can scale it without any problem. And that's where the lift and shift approach is there. On demand elasticity, as I said, you don't need to worry about adding extra nodes. You take the bare metal and just scale it. We can add the capacity in any public cloud service provider in the future. Now we have AWS and Azure, but I think GCP will follow soon. And business continuity, as I said, you need to build the disaster recovery. So what does that mean? As I said, you have the on-premise running your application, and you want to build disaster recovery because you don't want to create secondary data center, which is also another spend. You can just make a consumption model in AWS with Nutanix, and you can create that as a disaster recovery data center or disaster recovery platform. You can do that. So there are a number of use cases. Of course, cloud native, as I said, Carbon, you can take Carbon with Kubernetes, and you can run Kubernetes or microservice application, and you can run it. It's We are not stopping you to go anywhere, right? We are basically allowing with the Nutanix, you can reuse the same architecture, same infrastructure, and you can go everywhere in minutes. Public cloud, private cloud, hybrid cloud, multi-cloud. Nutanix is the only player you can do that. And if you look at the VDA, as I said, virtual desktop, if you look at pandemic, majority of the people across the globe working from home, working from anywhere, not only home. If you go to cafe, even if you want to grab coffee and you still wants to do some changes for a customer, you can just connect to the virtual desktop or virtual machine, or let's say a desktop as a service from Nutanix, and you still basically manage that particular stuff for a customer. That's where the beauty of Nutanix solutions. Yeah. So as I said to you, like one management tool, because licensing you can take it. It's a subscription model on premise, sorry, in public cloud. So as of today, you can do AWS with a cluster running cluster A in the AWS, cluster B in running in is let's say Azure, and cluster C running in, let's say, Nutanix. Sorry, the naming may be different, but even if you have the mix of match, you still stick to the same management GUI. You, even if running the workload, let's say web server is here, just out of the box example. Let's say you have the web server here, application here, and database here. You can still mix and match, but you can still managing from the same GUI. You don't need to have the two separate GUI for managing three separate instances. No, there's no need of that. And even if you look at the cost visibility with the Beam, you can see the seamless cost under same umbrella. You don't need to have the let's say trusted advisor from AWS and um, some other from GCP and Azure. You don't need to. Google Nutanix Beam can even do cost governance, um, cost optimization, governance, security, everything under integrated under the same platform. So now you might think like, okay, now you talked about the flexible model, but what about my licensing? Of course, as I rightly said in the first place, you can bring your own licenses. What does that means? You already have the 50 licenses which I talked about. Out of 100 licenses, we have 50 licenses you are already using on premise, but 50 which is left, If you use it, not use it, we already got the money, right? As a Nutanix. But of course, we care for you. We do not want your investment goes in a wrong direction. We do not want you are not using that. We insist you to first reuse your existing spend or existing licenses. If those licenses are shorted, you can basically take on demand licenses from us. That's okay, but we really want to help you in your journey to consume the existing one. That's where you bring your license. You can take the existing licenses and you can reuse in AWS. If you really don't want this model, if you want the cloud commit model, that means 1 year, let's say, upfront cost, and you can use the on demand. We are not stopping you. That is where the basically cheaper but pay as you grow model. Yeah. If you really don't want both of them, but you want pay as you go model, you can just consume from AWS and reuse it and basically build your infrastructure. So these are the flexible models. We allow customer to basically take and reuse of while building their application, while scaling their application. Now, apart from this, as I said, there is one management tool. So that means we are operationally adding so much benefits, having no tons of engineers required, only 1 or 2 engineers required. That means you basically leave the cost behind those 200 engineers to manage separate environment. You have to focus on developers who is writing the codes, and they are basically rolling out the application, rolling out the infrastructure, even taking something CI/CD into account, and deploying and integrating and scaling your application within minutes and even an hour. So if you look at the beam, as I said, if your infrastructure is running in public cloud, private cloud, or hybrid cloud, or multi-cloud, cost is the biggest issue. You do not know, like, I consume easy to install from AWS, storage from AWS, then basically IAM service from AWS, security, separate security instances or NAT instances from AWS, a separate S3 bucket. So many cost factor involved in that, right? But you do not know how much you are burning, right? You do not have the visibility. So AWS says, where the trusted AWS trusted advisor can give you the cost visibility, but that cost visibility from the trusted advisor from AWS is only within AWS. What about if you have the infrastructure running in GCP and Azure? You need to have the separate cost governance or cost optimization factor from others. So three different stuff. Nutanix says, don't worry. We have a tool within which is integrated within Nutanix, and that is called a Beam. And what Beam does is, Beam does cost optimization. It can tell you, like, you have the underutilized resources and you need to shut them, your overutilization, and you really need to scale it. We can even tell you like how much cost you can save from by couple of days after running the beam. We can tell you, like, even look at this, the number which come out of many customers who are running the beam. 35% of the cost saving is happening today with the help of beam. That means customer has full visibility and focus about underutilized resources and overutilized resources, and basically we bring that the value of beam, saying that, what, customer, if you are not using the less than 50% of the infrastructure, you can just shut them off and reuse when there is the demand and scale is needed. And beam is giving all that thing. Beam is not only doing the cost optimization, but look at governance, security, compliance, all that underlying stuff is fully integrated in the same platform. And as of today, as I said, Beam is doing between infrastructure running in three different part of the let's say the infrastructure: Nutanix, Azure, and AWS, and GCP will follow soon. So even, like I said, everything is running in differently. Beam will look at from the panoramic view and give you the visibility. If you look at the Calm is our automation and lifecycle management platform. And what does that mean is, as probably there is a HashiCorp, which is also having the HashiCorp Terraform, which you can run infrastructure as a code for multi-cloud. But again, that's a separate entity. You have the cloud formation, which is AWS. You need to run some codes, which is JSON based only. And that is, if you don't know JSON and if you know Python, then what about running that? So if you look at Calm, our blueprints, you can modify with any code you like because it's easy to customize. There is no proprietary stuff. You are the developer, and you can write the code in the right manner, which is self-provisioning, easy to do lifecycle management. What is meant by lifecycle management is provisioning, patching, and even scaling applications in a minute. It all possible with Calm. And it's, as I said, it's a hybrid orchestration. That means you don't need to have the separate. It's a fully integrated, fully managed service. And that's where we are adding the cost for a customer, but we are reducing them outages, because Calm, as I said, automation and orchestration tool, which minimizing the manual touch, because majority of the time people misconfigure something and there is something burnt, something is out of the box, right? So application has been taken out because the code, or sorry, not the code, the manual things went wrong. There is a firewall rule added, one below deny statement. So there is a deny statement and you added mistakenly the rule below that deny, and the traffic is blocked. All those small stuff you don't need to look at. Calm says, you know what, it gives you the code, you run the code, it gives you immediately, okay, everything goes green. It will tell you, okay, infrastructure is provisioned, everything is green. Now you just with one click, you click it, and everything is deployed, and the application stack is up and running, and users can immediately get the access to the application without any trouble. And that's where the customer are really want Nutanix platform. If you look at the demand and look the early adopters, Wipro is heavily looking at our solution. SoftBank, like SoftBank is a big company in Japan. The Masayoshi Son, who's the founder. Ola in India, look at Ola, Uber. All big investment is done by the SoftBank. Yeah, SoftBank is even taking 100 billion fund and reinvesting, like Koi City, the Mohan Aroid, which was also one of the founder with Nutanix initially, who's founded Koi City. Their funding is also going for SoftBank. So why SoftBank wants Nutanix in that journey? Because they also have the telco called Sprint in US, and they acquired a company called Yahoo Japan. So can you imagine, they also have plenty of infrastructure running, but they want also cost reduction and a seamless experience from Nutanix. And like I said, Gensar is also adapting. There are many Tokyo, Japan-based companies, Australia, the Bureau of Statistics, also one of the early adopters. And like I said, universities also looking for these options for giving the education to the students. And if I have to go one step back, if you look at the Australian Bureau of Statistics and the CICO, Chief Information Security Officer, as per him, Nutanix is adding too much value for them. Yeah, not only for the adding the capacity or using the capacity, but also the experience, frictionless experience they're getting out of Nutanix. Is they're so happy customers. They really want, and this is coming out of this C-level person. And after the study of IDC also, and the Preseco, which is Nutanix, sorry, a North American based company who's also partnered with Nutanix, and they want to go and build infrastructure on Azure with the help of Nutanix only. There are many partners who want to engage with us. And of course, you see, like, there's a small company, but many opportunities coming up. And as a student, right, back to you again, you need to think, okay, what should I learn, right? Should I learn Amazon Web Services, Google, and this? I would highly recommend you to basically focus on both hybrid, public and private, because there is always a black and white world will exist. Even if you move the black towards white, it becomes gray. And that's where you still need to invest your time and money. It's not about just knowing the AWS, and then what happens tomorrow, you on the job and there is a mix of infrastructure, then you think, you know what, I spent my year of time just knowing the AWS, and what about the Nutanix or some other infrastructure? There you start learning again, and that learning curve will be again 1 year long. So that's where I'm telling you, the focus as a student, focus as a future developers or future entrepreneurs, put focus on hybrid approach. And multi-cloud is also hybrid. If you look at AWS and Azure, if you make the combinations become hybrid, right? At the end of the day, if you look at Nutanix versus AWS, you combine them, become hybrid. So hybrid approach is really key for us. And that number I'm telling you, and I told you earlier, is 20 in 23, which is 3 to 4 years from now, the 85% of the infrastructure will be hybrid. It's not about just public cloud, right? Because there is no one fit for all approach. Of course, if you look at data going out from public cloud costs money. And you think, okay, my data going out means the data going out of region. No, If you have three availability zones, like assume that this availability zone 1, availability zone 2, availability 3, even if the data moving between availability zones, you still pay the cost, right? Pay cost per GB. Then think about how much money you are putting just using the same data and putting, because you have the database server. Let's take an example, database service. You have the database running in availability 1, and you have the read replica which is running in availability zones 2, right? And the read replica, because you want let's say active passive scenario. So read, assume that the read is happening from the read replica, and write, let's say updates and writes, and even the changes are happening locally, or writes are happening locally. You still need to move your data back and forth. And if what happens if the primary fails, the failover should happen on the public, so all the data has to move, all the replication has to move. So you basically start paying from every single data which is going from one AZ to another AZ. And then think about it, how much costs you basically burn behind the thing. When you become the C-level person in the future, maybe as an engineer you will never think about cost, but as a C-level people, I'll tell you there is only two things: adding the revenue by adding the new customer, adding the new portfolio. If you are not adding the new customer, because let's take a pandemic as an example, you need to save the cost. How would you save the cost? If you look at running public cloud and this kind of infrastructure and moving the data in here, you will start burning your money. So that's where Nutanix is basically thinking, okay, how we can come into the equation of public cloud and help you to save the cost by keeping everything local, everything as local as possible, and making sure that you are not burning too much cost behind reutilizing the public cloud services, and utilizing your already spent, and basically reducing the cost. And that's where Nutanix is moving forward. And with that, of course, I'm coming to an end because I talked morely over an hour. So if you want to get a use, and if you want to make your hands dirty, I will highly recommend you to go to nutanix.com and request for test drive. So go, just fill out your names and email ID and everything. You will get immediate email and you will get access. And with that access, you can basically run Nutanix on AWS. So you get an experience about our management tool called Prism without touching to management console of AWS. And if you really want to run, you can run 30 days free licensing software. You don't need to pay for anything. Even we highly recommend you, if you want, if you are running in the future with a company, and you want to get basically showcase Nutanix or the public and the Nutanix on premise, you can request bootcamp. So we can provide the bootcamp where we can give the training and the right material and the right uh, labs to practice and build and run the application for customers. And if you think this is the best platform for you, then we're happy to take our sales and marketing team in the future. But that's a sales point. I don't want to go in that direction. But my point is, first get your hands dirty on our platform. Think about it's a good solution, or you think there is an improvement. Always, we're happy to learn. We're happy to take the feedback from you. We're happy to take the reviews from you, and we can add the improvement. We can make innovation even better way. And that's where we want to basically take the message with the customer, take a message to you as a student, where we have the continuous learning process and continuous innovation process. And that's where we want to bring the description to the market. And with that, I would like to thank you. Netaji Subhash Engineering College, Kolkata, and thank you all the participants and the people who's listening in different part of the world. And look, also Nutanix. This is a survey, and this is a fortune basically. Um, Not only survey but also the announcement that Nutanix is Fortune 100 best company to work for, and this is 2020, and continuously in a row we are also the top 100 Fortune company to work for because of disruptive technology, delightful experience to the customer, because we always think from customer point. So innovation is always outside in versus inside out, and basically we exactly do the same thing. Go out, capture the market requirement, capture the all the nitty gritty stuffs, see what customer is looking for, and then bring that ideas and then bring it back and build the product, and we try to resell it. And that's the awesome culture we have. And that's the reason basically people really wanted to work for Nutanix. Look at me as an ex-CTO. I really want to work for Nutanix because of a small company, but business is across 130 countries, and my role, look at this, my role is multiple geographies, and I'm enjoying my role every single day. And also learning, I'm not saying I'm an expert. I'm a student today, I'm student tomorrow, and I was student forever, because learning will never stop. Because today maybe I know about public cloud, tomorrow I need to know blockchain, we can need to know cryptocurrency, need to know crypto, cybersecurity, need to know the AI, machine learning, and many other stuff will come, right? So do I get expertise in everything? No, the answer is no, right? Unless and until you don't basically work every single day, you start losing the knowledge, you start losing the field. Because every single 2 months later, you will see the same application looks differently, because they change it, because of the customer says, you know what, I want this versus that, and the product team, they change it, right? So the experience is changing, so you have to keep updated yourself, and keeping that pace is difficult. So it's better to be even if I'm a leader, I should not say leader, because the definition of leader is the leadership is not a position, it's an action. So take the right action to solve the right problems in the market, take the right action to solve the right problem for the provide the solution to solve the right problem for a customer. Customer service will be delightful, customer will be happy and tell you, you know what, you did the right job. And that's where you are the leader is not about you become the VP of a company or CEO of company. Even an engineer become leader because he's taking the lead, he's taking the responsibility, he's taking even own interest to solve the customer problem. That's where the leader is. Leader is not about the position, that somebody is telling I have the leadership, I'm the CEO and I'm a leader. It's wrong. Engineer is already a leader in the market, because look at who's running and solving customers problem is engineers. They're writing the codes, they are migrating the applications, they are building the application in a multiple ways, in a multiple different ideas. And because of that, you are a leader, you are changing the landscape, you are changing the ideas, you're asking customer to do this way versus that way. And that's where the leadership quality comes. So don't hesitate that you are today's student and I'm not leader. You are leader yourself. So if you go to the MBA, I wrote an article, my GMAT score was awesome. I could go to Harvard, Stanford, I could go to any places, but I did my MBA from different college. Doesn't matter, right? But if you look at, I even studied at Harvard and said I'm become the alumni. The answer why I'm telling this, the thing is, you need to think about, uh, uh, doesn't matter where you go, think about what kind of out of the box thinking you can create yourself, you can create for your student, sorry, your customers. And also share it. The more you share it, the more you learn from others. Sharing is caring, we always call sharing is caring. But like I said, if you put the ball on the ground, the same way ball comes up. So that means the action and reaction is always equal and opposite. So put the energy, put the momentum, and you will get the outcome. Don't sit idly. You have the passion, you should have passion, you should have courage. There is a, take the fear out. If let's say I don't speak English, I don't know how to speak English. I will tell you my story. My father passed away when I was 4 year old. I went to my native. I was Marathi medium person. I basically work in farm. I came to Mumbai after my 8th standard. It was new world back after 7 years. And then I don't know how to basically speak English, I don't know how to write English. But look at now, I'm working, I'm a Dutch European passport holder, working at multiple geographies, talking to multiple conferences, multiple events like today. And I'm talking in English without troubling. Of course, my English might be bad, but I'm not scaring at all, because my fear is already gone. If you take the fear out, you will stand as a leader without any problem. You will stand yourself in front of anyone. Look at me, I'm having the picture with my founder without any fear. Look at me having picture with other many um, C-level people. When I was CTO, I was used to meet many top people. Nikesh Arora from Palo Alto, who's the founder, is the CEO, NetApp CEO, then the HashiCorp founder, Adnan, Adam, and then you can see like I could able to meet those guys. But it's only possible only when you think about your leader itself. There is always a question asked in the MBA, maybe if you go, leader is born or leader are created. Of course, there are some leaders are born, like maybe Bill Gates and let's say Alibaba. But if you look at Dheeraj, you think, okay, he created a massive company which is 1.5 billion of revenue, and if you look at the market cap, roughly 5 billion. Do you think he is a not born leader? He's also born leader, but he also created himself. If he could not take the step to leave the India and go to US and create this flourish innovation, I think he could not be in a leader today who's standing in front of 130 countries. And look, the appreciation he's getting, the appreciation, I'm telling about him, because he's still humble. And if you look at the our values, Nutanix, there are three values: humble, honest, and hungry. So we have to be humble, we have to be honest. If I don't know, if I don't know, if we don't have it, we don't have it. There is no you don't need to shame about it, you don't need to worry about it. Be honest, be honest, be hungry. If you don't know, just go and try to see. If I don't know about Anthos, how I can go and make my hands dirty on Kubernetes? Okay, Anthos is basically Kubernetes, which is the worker and the master node. So master node sit in GCP, which is managed services, which is SaaS platform, and then you run workload anywhere, and you still manage from that. Of course, they want to have the customer workload running there, but unless and until you don't go and understand and run everything by your own hand, you will never learn it. And if you learn more, you improve more, the confidence level will boost up, and that's where you can talk to the customer very confidently and you can push the solution. And I think with those points, I would like to stop here and leave the room for the Q&A. I hope that makes sense so far within an hour. Hello?
Thank you so much, an insightful and inspiration session. And if someone wants to get started with Nutanix and hybrid cloud interface, how he or she should proceed?
So as I said, Nutanix, you go to our website, learn about the Nutanix, the products, but also what you can do is, without knowing even Nutanix, what you can do, you just request a test drive. Yeah. So I hope you can see my screen. So go to the nutanix.com, request for test drive. So you will go and fill few details, and you get immediately, like I said, 4 to 8 hours, you get an availability. And even there is a already written guidelines. So use that guidelines on the left side and build infrastructure on the right side. So you don't need to even look at here and there. The guide will guide you that, okay, if you run this, the infrastructure impact will be like that. So with left and right combination, you can build the infrastructure and you can make your hands dirty. And of course, you have the bunch of certification from Nutanix. Is NCP is Nutanix Certified Professional, NPX is Nutanix Platform Expert. So you can even achieve the certification from Nutanix. Of course, you can look at our promotional codes. We are also offering 50% cost, less cost because of the pandemic. And there is a Nutanix University. You can look at Nutanix University, and maybe can you see my screen? If you go to Nutanix University,
Yes.
and in the Nutanix University, what you can do, you just request request basically you log into your own ID and request. Or if you are partner or you become partner, we can even help you. So in the Nutanix University, you have bunch of documentation available. And and for example, nothing is available, write me an email. I will be happy to even produce you some sort of document, some sort of knowledge, and I can bring you to the level where you need to be a Nutanix expert. I can help you there too. But first and foremost thing, what you do is go to Nutanix website. There might be a test a drive. Click on the test drive, fill some details, and immediately you get a link and the username and password to log into our portal and help you with a guide to build the infrastructure. And you don't need to, and AWS, like if you have AWS, Also the drawback is you need to have the credit card in place, right? Even if you want to say, they said you have 200 what 750 hours free with 200 credit, but you need to swap your credit card. But if you don't have the credit card as a student, what you are doing to, so that's not needed when you do with Nutanix, right? That's again the another beauty of Nutanix, is without having the credit card, you just request the test drive and you get an immediate or instant access. We don't even want to know where you from and what is your credit card number. All those details really not needed. I hope that makes sense, eh?
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It was really helpful. And for the audience, I would like to say, as Mr. Kalvikatte said, Nutanix is well noted for their outstanding customer services, which is winning a award for past 7 years. And it was an honor, sir, to have you with us. And thank you once again from the entire team of GNX and Netaji Subhash Engineering College.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Have a good day, everyone, and God bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Okay, so now we will be providing you with the feedback form. The link will be shared with you right now. So the form will be open for 30 minutes. You need to fill it up, and once you fill it up, you will be eligible for the certification process of the CloudFest. It's in the description. You can see it. So thank you. Stay safe. Have a wonderful puja ahead.